IKA, which is running an MPC network. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, I appreciate being on. Thank you for the invite. And Samir, thank you for getting it all booked in. Super excited.
Yeah, you guys were so chill about it. I was like amazed by the smoothness of the process. So I just wanted to say thank you again, and we really, really appreciate you guys being here. We're huge friends of the ecosystem, and we're happy to have more organizations and companies to kind of like jump in and chat with us a little bit and educate us.
Amazing. And we're also joined by our incredible co-founder, David. So thank you for jumping on, David. I know that we were trying to see if we could get you on, but I'm glad you're able to make it.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for joining in. Before we get into the questions, I do want to say an important reminder. Thank you, Samir, for reminding me this, as I forgot. Today is election day in Ontario. So if you are an Ontario resident and a Canadian citizen, go out and vote. I believe the polls close around 8. Look up the actual time to confirm that. But make sure and do your civic duty and vote for the Premier of Ontario and your MPP. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us at our meeting, our in-person meetup last Thursday. It was incredible. Saw a lot of people, learned a lot about Walrus Protocol, a storage application on Sui. We gave out some alcohol, we gave out some food, and nobody cared. Some people cared about the food. They cared more about the information, and that's what I like to see, you know? It's sort of like, oh, there's food and pizza. That's cool. I'm going to go and listen to what this guy has to say. So thank you all for attended. I had a great time, and I hope you did too. But yes, as I said, I know very little about this space, and I'm excited to learn. So before we get into specifically about, I already forget IKEA. IKEA.
Yeah, IKEA, that's the one.
IKEA.
So we're a Swedish powerhouse. We supply, really well-packed furniture.
Yeah.
IKA, Matthew.
IKA. So yeah, what kind of couches do you have available? And
in every color you could imagine. In about
every
a year, it will
color.
deteriorate. We've, but they're there for you.
Okay.
It's funny. You're not.
You still have the Allen key or no?
Yes, we do provide it, but it's good to buy a couple of pieces of furniture because you might lose the one in the box you get. You're not the first person to call us IKEA. I will give you that.
Oh, so yeah, sorry about that. It makes me feel a little bit better. But before we go into what specifically you do, can you explain in a non-technical term what an MPC network is?
I'm gonna let David explain that because he's got a really beautiful way of explaining that one.
Perfect.
Sure. So MPC is a field in cryptography. It revolves around solving a cryptographic problem in a way that no one needs to share any secret information, but you still get a result that you need information from different people. So, to give a very, I'm giving like a very broad explanation of what MPC is, and then like how it relates to crypto exactly. But this is not like a crypto specific, by the way. MPC, it's a broad term in cryptography. So the basic example that is usually given to explain what MPC is let's say all of us on this space, we all want to know if we're making higher or lower than the average salary in this space, but we don't want to reveal our salary, right? So you generally can't do that without trusting someone with all this information, but you can build an MPC algorithm that will allow everyone to share kind of unintelligible data, so nothing that anyone can reverse engineer to know what my salary actually is. But at the end, what you have is a computation, right? It's a multi-party computation where no one shares their secret information, but you end up getting the results. So you will know if you're earning more or less than the average without having to share your salary. So that's the general kind of field in cryptography of MPC. In crypto, when people say MPC, what they usually mean is a subsection of MPC, specifically TSS, threshold signature scheme. What that means is, everyone knows, at least everyone in crypto knows that in order to interact with a blockchain, you need to have a private key, and you can sign with this private key. You can, sign on transactions, and then they can be verified. So no one knows your private key, but they can verify that you actually provided that signature. That's how you can control assets without trusting a third-party ledger, a third party, intermediary to manage the ledger. So that's kind of how cryptography works. But then TSS is threshold cryptography. So you can have uh, multiple people, each holding, you can think about it like a part of the key. It's not exactly a part of the key, but only when a certain threshold agree to sign, only then a valid signature can be generated. So this is when people say MPC in Web3, that's usually what they mean. And when you say an MPC network, what you mean is that the threshold generating that signature is done through a network of nodes.
Okay, Samir, did you get that?
Was that maybe too technical? I would try to make it as least technical as I could.
I think I got it. This sounds, again, forgive my ignorance. This sounds kind of similar to zero knowledge is proof. Am I accurate
So
with that statement?
you're not that far off. Zero knowledge is actually a way to do an MPC, a multi-party computation. So in zero knowledge, you want to prove something, right, to someone else, but you don't want to share your secret information. So what you do is you perform some sort of computation that generates a proof, so someone can know that you did it without knowing exactly what you did. So that is one kind of way of performing one form of MPC. And what I described TSS is what usually people, when they say MPC, that's usually what they mean in Web3, is another type of way to perform another type of computation with multiple parties.
Okay, I got it. I think like it is still a bit technical, but I'm starting to understand it. And I'm coming from zero knowledge on, sorry, not, I shouldn't say zero knowledge based on to add confusion, but I basically know nothing about this. So for me to get it on first try would be a miracle. But thank you for explaining that. So like, how do you guys differ from just a standard MPC?
So we actually spent 2 years doing a lot of research and achieving a lot of breakthroughs with some of the world's top cryptographers who are on our team in order to solve quite a few problems that existing MPC implementations have. So maybe it will be useful if we can kind of describe how MPC evolved, because it is a pretty young field or segment, definitely in crypto. Um, so MPC basically started as a solution for crypto custodians. So I don't know if you're familiar with Fireblocks. They're the company who kind of introduced MPC to the crypto space. And Fireblocks' idea was, people are having a lot of a hard time with these private keys and managing them, and it's becoming a huge problem, especially with companies and institutions who want to hold digital assets, but where are they going to hold the key? What are they going to just like write it and put it in a on like the note and the metal keys and what? It's just it's insane, right? To think that a business needs to deal with all of that, right? It's one thing us, kind of degenerate early adopters, but an institution or a company, it becomes much more complex. So what they said is, let's take this threshold cryptography stuff and let's go to companies and institutions and tell them, look, we are going to remove this single point of failure, this very scary private key. And what we're going to do is we're going to have two different shares. We'll hold one share and you'll hold one share. So you don't have to protect this one share as, vigorously as you would have protected a private key, because, no one can generate a signature just with that share. But we also have our share, which we can't generate a signature without you. So whenever you want to generate a signature, we will have this system, this access control system, where you'll have policies and you'll have your security mechanisms, and then you'll be able to generate signatures only if it passes the policy. So if someone steals the share that you have and tries to generate a signature, but he can't, authenticate with a 2FA or can't do a video call to verify who there is, we won't sign with them. So this solved a very, very big problem, and Fireblocks today is a huge company, and there are a few other huge competitors that are also doing this. But this is how MPC was introduced into crypto as a solution for centralized custodians. What happened after that is a lot of creative people said, "No, MPC is a pretty cool concept, right? Let's take MPC and move it into a network, right? Why trust a centralized custodian?" And then that network will be able to sign signatures with a threshold. No single validator will hold the key. But in a consensus, they would be able to sign signatures to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to Solana, and we'll be able to do a lot of cool things. I think one of the first implementations of an MPC network was Thorchain. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Thorchain, but it's kind of a multi-chain DEX where you can swap, for example, Bitcoin for Ethereum. And this is what they did. They used MPC. The problem is they used the algorithms that were developed for centralized custodians. So the moment there were a few problems that created problems around performance, problems around decentralization. It couldn't scale to a lot of parties. With Thorchain, they're limiting it to up to 20 parties participating. And the last problem, which was the biggest problem, was it removed zero trust. So on a blockchain, if you have a private key, then you don't have to trust anyone, and no one can generate a signature without you. And also with Fireblocks, right? You have a share, but you know that no one can sign without your share. So you don't have to trust Fireblocks, you don't have to trust anyone. But with an MPC network, the user is removed from the process. The shares are only held by the nodes in the network. And if you can compromise enough nodes, then you can basically steal all of the user's assets. So you kind of, by trying to take this MPC concept into a network, it sounds good on paper, but it actually was a step back. And what we did, the thing that we did different is we created a new MPC algorithm, a new kind of cryptographic scheme that is actually designed for a decentralized network and not designed for a centralized custodian. So it solves the performance problems, it solves the decentralization problem, but most importantly, it solves the zero trust problem.
Wow, like that's like incredible, and especially when you brought up the issue with Thorchain. Has that ever been compromised?
So actually, it's just recently there was a lot of drama with Thorchain. And I think it's more than whether it's compromised or not. It's the fact that it can be compromised that makes it a honeypot. So attackers, the same goes for bridges, right? Wherever you have something that removes zero trust from the user, it means that becomes a single point of failure that attackers can target and withdraw a lot of assets from a lot of users in one place. So this is like one of the reasons why blockchain in general is such a good concept, is because if I want to steal Ethereum, I can't hack the validators of Ethereum. I need to hack every Ethereum user independently, right? So if I manage to hack Bybit, which is a pretty big Ethereum user, I can steal a lot of Ethereum, but I still need to hack that user. But when you have a bridge, you only need to hack a bridge, and then you can hack all of the users of the bridge together. If you hack Thorchain, you can hack all of the assets that are held in Thorchain together. So these problems are creating these honeypots, these targets for attackers. That is something that prevents adoption from the first place. So a lot of institutions won't use Thorchain in the first place because they understand that there's a lot of risk there.
No, I mean, the fact that it hasn't been compromised is not much of a, assurance, because like you said, it sounds like it's inevitable that one day I'm going to wake up and see on my phone that there was a compromise. And it's not just with crypto and bridges, it's with everything. The moment you basically advertise there's a ton of wealth, be it money, gold, assets in a certain place, people are going to say, how do we get at it? How can we make this mine?
Exactly. And I think what crypto shows us is that, if you look at the hacks in crypto, the biggest hacks were centralized exchanges, right? Were bridges, were all these places where people pool a lot of users from a lot of assets and remove their control. They remove the zero trust guarantee that a blockchain provides, and then it becomes more susceptible for attacks.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So it's also something that I have to think about myself when using. I always try to increase my security. I have like a multitude of different wallets, and it sounds like that's one more thing I have to think about. But I'm glad I have to think about that. Better to be proactive than reactive, right? So on your website, there's various, use cases, such as the wallet recovery, AI, DeFi, staking, and Bitcoin. Can you elaborate more on how you enhance these features?
Sure. I mean, I think maybe it will be useful to maybe talk about exactly what our tech enables, and I think it'll make a lot of the use cases more clear.
Yeah, sure.
So, what we created with IKA is this new concept, this new primitive for developers. We call it a D wallet, so like a D app. And essentially, it's not a wallet per se. It's not a wallet app or a wallet mechanism, but it's more of a building block that allows developers to control assets and to enforce logic on other chains from their smart contract. So you can think about it as a way to move the programmability from the asset to the account that holds the asset. And what I mean by that is that developers can create a new type of logic where accounts, like the actual blockchain account that holds assets that you do things through, becomes programmable, becomes transferable, which is something that didn't exist before in Web3. And if you think about it from a developer perspective, that means that I don't need to have, for example, bridges anymore. I don't need to take asset A from chain X and move it to chain Y. I can just enforce my logic or control that asset on chain X where it belongs without having to bridge it and create a derivative, a wrapped asset on another chain. It also means that I can create new types of use cases where I actually transfer an entire account as part of the logic. So, to give a few examples that you read out from the website, Bitcoin programmability. That's a good example. Bitcoin today native BTC lives on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin doesn't have smart contract functionality. So when people want to use Bitcoin in DeFi, what they do is they trust someone, usually a custodian, give them their Bitcoin, and they give them wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum, for example, or on another chain. And then they use that wrapped Bitcoin on DeFi. But what you can do with this D wallet is the developer can create, let's say, a lending protocol where you use your native BTC on Bitcoin as collateral. It lives on this D wallet, this new primitive that the user has control of. So the user knows that no one can sign a transaction without them. But the network, the IKA network, also controls the logic. So the user can sign without the IKA network. So the IKA network can enforce the lending logic, and the BTC, the native BTC, stays locked as collateral on Bitcoin. And then you can receive a loan on another chain with USDC, for example. So this is kind of an example of how you can take this primitive as a builder and just create your logic around it, regardless of where the asset is and what do you want to do with it.
That Bitcoin part, is like, it's to give people an example of how important that is. Back when FTX collapsed, there was a rumor that they were entirely responsible for the wrapped Sol Bitcoin. So people freaked out and it lost its peg. And I think you could have bought a Solana wrapped Bitcoin for like $3,000 because people didn't think that it was a real Bitcoin and that there was nothing there.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's not a real Bitcoin, right? Like a derivative is never the actual real asset, which is why it can lose its peg if people believe that something happened to it.
Yeah, and because you're right, it's not a real Bitcoin, and I didn't really follow up with it when I saw that happen. I don't know if that ended up being true, if FTX was responsible
So
for all the Bitcoin.
I can tell you what.
Oh.
Alameda Research was one of the biggest users of wrapped Bitcoin. As we know, Alameda Research didn't really care a lot about security or about the validity of the assets that they're using, so they didn't mind, right? So they were actually historically the biggest users ever of wrapped Bitcoin. No other like institutional players trust wrapped Bitcoin. It's the entity that operates wrapped Bitcoin today is BitGo, and BitGo are fine, but no one wants to trust them with their Bitcoin pooled with all these other user Bitcoin. I think it's less than 1% of Bitcoin is actually wrapped today. So there's very low adoption. But historically, Alameda Research was the biggest user, and the moment it collapsed because it was such a big user, people immediately panicked and said, "Oh, like they're involved with wrapped Bitcoin, and maybe this is these are the underlying Bitcoin maybe also got lost with all the other assets, so I'm gonna dump it as soon as possible and not take my risks."
Do you know if they'd ever recovered?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that BitGo actually had control of all the underlying Bitcoin. So, eventually it came back, and, some people just because they lost faith, they lost, quote unquote, on this trade because they were worried that it's actually going to be zero, and the other who bought it on a discount actually made a profit. But the
Oh
thing is
yeah.
that you can't know, right? This is part of the problem. The moment that you take an asset and create a derivative around that asset, you can never actually know until it's too late whether or not it depegged or not.
Yeah, so that's why, like, when you mentioned that, like, that you sort of control the Bitcoin that you wrap, like that was like, wow, that's huge. So we've been getting a lot of we've been working with the Sui community ourselves. We hosted a couple events with them. As I mentioned, the last one was with Walrus Protocol. So I'm just curious, like, what led you to deploy this on Sui?
Um, so when we started, we had a very long list of requirements, and we knew that we need to do a lot of cryptography research. But we also knew that back then, 3 years ago, when we started, nothing that existed on the market. So we had Ethereum, Solana, Cosmos, Polkadot, but nothing existing back then really met our requirements in terms of the speed, in terms of scalability, like latency, throughput. So we knew that's another big problem that we needed to solve. So we decided to start with the cryptography part. And luckily so, because while we were doing that, the great people at Sui actually solved all the other things. So I always say that if Sui didn't exist, we would probably have had to create it ourselves. And to be honest, it was a pretty easy decision for us to utilize Sui. I think they did an amazing job of creating really, really robust technical infrastructure. I think it's going to become very, very evident and clear in the upcoming months and years as more and more, Web 2 or real world value comes to Web 3. I think a lot of it will choose Sui as its home just because it is unparalleled in terms of performance, security, just overall design.
I didn't know that about Sui, and like I said, I've been researching a lot based on our partnerships with them, and that's incredible. Like I said, I was hoping to learn a lot, and I am not disappointed. So I see that you've released your alpha testnet. Congratulations, because I know like various testnet releases are a huge accomplishment, and there's a lot of work behind that. But what are some features that you would like people to test out?
So our testnet, to be honest, is very focused on developers. In general, our product, although we do have a kind of a more degenerate community meme side, which I'm sure Sharon will be able to talk about a bit more. Sorry, Illumi is here with us. But actually, our tech is very, very low level infrastructure. So a lot of the end users will not interact directly with IKA. They will probably use a solution that is powered by IKA tech. So our testnet, which has been live for a while, and we're gearing up towards mainnet right now, is mostly used by developers who are creating these new novel use cases around IKA, around the wallets. And we have already quite a few amazing teams. Some of them are already venture backed, building pretty amazing, groundbreaking solutions utilizing our tech.
And sorry, do you want to elaborate more on that meme community that David brought up? Sorry, I forgot your name already.
It's Illumi, and you're on mute, Illumi.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on
Illumi.
mute. Yeah, I mean, where to bring this up? My pitch to David when I joined the organization was, we live in the era of the attention economy. Infra is very hard to get like retail excited about, even if it's the most incredible, like groundbreaking infra in the world, because Web3 has been polluted by so many projects that all say we're the best, we're revolutionizing things, we're a game changer, so on and so forth. And I said, like, it's a bit of a wild one, but hear me out. I would love to run the community and the marketing like we're a meme coin that just so happens to have the wildest utility in Web3. I think, the rug pulls and Ponzi's aside, I think meme coins do a really great job building communities, and can be a great vehicle for user adoption. Um, and especially if you look into the Sui ecosystem, there's a lot of like really positive meme coins that do a lot to onboard new users to Web3. And so there are facets there that you can apply to community building. And quite frankly, I joined crypto to not do boring corporate stuff. So, I think we should really embrace the ethos of this space. It's not to do more of the same BS marketing that we see in Web 2. I think, it's why can't infra be sexy? Why can't it be cool? Why can't it be fun? There's no reason. It's just that a lot of people took traditional Web 2 marketing and decided to apply it to this space. And I'm not a marketer by trade. I come from like a background of operations, commercial roles in fintech, prop tech, and in like dev tech. But I like the reason I loved Web3 was because it was the antithesis of like the corporate Web 2 lifestyle. And so I think that, like that's what spoke to me the most about this.
That's an interesting tactic. I've never sort of heard like a combination like of a meme marketing strategy, but with like an actual like tech behind it. I sympathize with your lack of corporate enthusiasm. I have also experienced the corporate world myself. The red tape, the hierarchy, you're lucky to get 30 seconds to talk to your boss type stuff. And like the suits and stuff. I'm glad I don't wear a suit anymore. So all that. So I sympathize with you there, and I think that's a very unique marketing strategy. So kudos to you guys for doing that. And yeah, you're right. There's the meme coins. They're really good, especially meme NFTs. They're really good at like bringing communities together. There's been a bit of a drawback for the last month or so with some unfortunate coins, but those are the reality, and it's just part of the industry we're in. So who do you think would benefit from this MPC network the most? Like developers, individuals, um, Yeah.
So,
Which
so I think rather than describing it an MPC network, right? Because it's like, yes, on the tin, that's what it is. It's to understand who benefits the most is to understand what use cases come to existence as a result of it, right? So we talked about security, we talked about the cryptography, we talked about that, but at the end of the day, like, what changes when IKA goes live, when we go into mainnet? And I think the first things we'll see are changes in the side of DeFi. I think, one thing I'm excited to see is cross-chain atomic swaps. So taking your favorite assets on chain A and using those and transferring them to assets you want on chain B, with like sub-second finality. Then there's things like, we've not seen much in the Bitcoin programmability space that's actually native and well executed. There's a lot of smokes and mirrors in Bitcoin programmability. Um, and I think we're coming to a time now where we can see things like, lock your Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network and take out a loan in USDC on Sui. That's like a very basic concept, but it just doesn't exist. You can't do, like, if you want to take out, if you're going to use your Bitcoin as collateral, you have to wrap it first and take it outside of the Bitcoin network. And technically, you don't even take it outside of the Bitcoin network. David covered this off, but like, these type of use cases that are like the very easy, basic, fundamental use cases to understand. But then when you really dive into what's actually possible here, IKA breaks soulbound tokens. IKA creates a whole new level of like asset interaction in games. IKA enables AI guardrails. And you're only really limited by your kind of imagination and creativity of what you can do with the ability to sign a signature on any chain from a Sui smart contract. So the best way, when I describe to builders is, let's say you're building an NFT marketplace on Sui. If you, use IKA, now this NFT marketplace you're building isn't the Sui NFT marketplace. It's just the NFT marketplace. Why not coordinate assets across every single chain? Right. So when you come to build on Sui, you're no longer building for the Sui ecosystem. You're building for everyone in Web3. And I think that's where things start to become really powerful. So I think, who benefits the most? Initially, developers. But when they get to benefit, the people that end up benefiting after that is the users, right? So I think we'll see in the next year this blurring of the lines of, these chain maxis, my chain's better than your chain. Like, chains are just like, British Telecommunication or Charter or Time Warner. They're these like lines under the ground. Nobody goes out there wearing their favorite cable company t-shirt. And I think chains will end up going that way, and that's fine. They're infrastructure and they need to be used as such.
And I just want to add to that I think a big benefit in Web3 is not a mature category or industry yet. In a mature industry, you have kind of infrastructure layers that reduce the barrier of entry for new participants, and that eventually benefits all users. So a very simple example, we talked about Fireblocks. Fireblocks today is a multi-billion-dollar company, probably. I mean, it's still private, so we don't really know, but probably over $10 billion. And it's very, very hard to compete with Fireblocks because you need to create like this whole team of cryptography experts and cybersecurity engineers, and it's super, super complex. But with IKA, we have a product that is building on IKA, competing with Fireblocks, and their name is Aeon, by the way. And they're, two developers that just looked at IKA, said, this is amazing. They created all of this very super secure MPC infrastructure. I can now build a product with a smart contract on Sui and, a great interface that can compete with Fireblocks, from my garage, basically, in Lisbon. So this is kind of the level of, and whenever you remove barriers for entry for new participants, you create a better, more efficient market for users. So I think that is also a big benefit that IKA brings to the table.
So just for the record, you're planning on getting Bitcoin maxis to use other networks?
Honestly, no. What I'm planning is to get Bitcoin maxis to have their Bitcoin work for them and not just stay, very capital inefficient in a vault somewhere, which they won't do until they can do it without, you know, giving their Bitcoin to someone else and getting a derivative.
No, I think that's like an excellent use case. But Godspeed for you to get Bitcoin maxis to use something else.
I think Bitcoin maxis are probably at the edge case, but I believe Bitcoin maxis as well will eventually, give into the squid.
Perfect. Yes, Bitcoin maxis. If you're listening, give in to the squid. Do it. Do it. So, like, are you open for like partnerships, or like, and if somebody wants to work with you, like, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Illumi, you want to take that? You're muted again.
Yep, I am. Sorry,
I do it all the
on
time.
multiple tabs, and I'm like, I thought I was on mute. Okay, so best way to reach out to us. Honestly, DM me on Twitter. That is going to be a place I look multiple times a day. Jump in our Discord, jump in our Telegram. We have a super secret builders chat. And you can get access to that if you start to write some code. But there's a variety of different ways, right? And one of the things that it's like one of the most important values to me in this space is the team should always be accessible to everyone. One of the biggest moments I had early on in like my Web3 journey was like being in a random meme coin Telegram channel, and there's like the CEO of a really big project on that chain just hanging out shooting the shit on that channel. And I I thought that was really cool. Like it's like, it shows this down to earth side of these people that sometimes feel inaccessible, like when you think of like a lot of these projects that are large infra projects. So for me, yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is being very accessible, and I'd like to say that we are. I like, if I've not responded to you in the DM, don't take it personally. I do have a lot of Telegram DMs, but I think Twitter, Discord, and Telegram is the place to catch us.
Awesome. So don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Feel free to reach out to them. We had someone ask in the comments, how specifically do they have, could you get access to the testnet?
As a developer, it's simply just going on IKA.xyz. There's two big buttons. One takes you to the white paper, and one takes you to the developer docs. Press on the developer docs, and it'll start to show you how to do things on there. And if you get stuck, DM me, and we can intro you to a lot of builders that are on that same journey as you, starting to build. And then if you are a user, we have a number of teams that are coming close to, a couple are in mainnet now and are on their way to, sorry, a couple are in testnet now and are on their way to mainnet very shortly. And so they'll have products that, are there for the community to try out as well. And so as in one, we have them coming to testnet and coming to mainnet. We're going to parade them around and make sure that everyone gets to try, be the first to trying the future of interoperability.
Excellent. And is there anything else you want to talk about that I didn't ask that you think is important for our community to know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of questions for you guys. Being
Yeah. Shoot away.
region specific community, what do you find is the best way to engage with different like crypto infra or crypto brands? What is your community looking for, and what resonates the most with them?
So, for clarification, we're actually not a crypto group. We consider ourselves tech, but most of us, or all of us, have a crypto background. So, we're kind of taking advantage of that low hanging fruit that's there. We're also, knowledgeable of like various crypto connections with various crypto communities. So, that's where we're starting with. We've had, a non tech company as a guest once, and we're always welcome to welcome those. But yeah, we're just looking at getting people together while we on the down low try to build our governance and NFT system.
And if you don't mind, Matthew, I'd just like to add that as far as crypto goes in Toronto community, a lot of it is concentrated around online communities on like Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups. Like for example, every time we do spaces, I just blast every group with the link. And that's kind of like how we interact and know each other. But I gotta give props to other organizations like Bitcoin Bay here in Toronto that always would gather us like every like other week. We would actually gather offline in real life and just hang out. And that's kind of like how I met you, Matthew, actually,
Yes,
and
that's true.
a lot of other people. And then from that we forge alliances and start organizations like Toronto DAO and all of that. So just underlying the importance of meeting in person and develop that trust. Also shout out to the Vibe Station, the Super Team Canada. They do have like a good co-working space every Friday. So those relationships are developing so much faster just because you see a person in real life, and there's just better trust from that.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much met everybody at Bitcoin Bay as the original one. No, Athika, who is another one who works with us. I met her at a hackathon which Bitcoin Bay organized, so maybe you could count that as Bitcoin Bay. But yeah, all these groups, we always work with each other. We're not team Toronto DAO versus team Bitcoin Bay, though I'm still advocating for like some sort of recreational thing where it would literally be that, but that's unrelated to this. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. And is there anything else you'd like to ask us? I'm enjoying this, by the way.
Yeah, the interviewer becomes interviewee. Yeah, like it's interesting to hear about the Toronto community. David and I are both based in London, and I've got to like. It's unfortunate, but the London crypto scene is super dry. It's very, very, very dull. We have like one event that's quite cool, and I think the Sui community has been doing a lot in London, so those events are quite exciting. But the only things we end up getting are like the digital asset summit, or like it's basically your big wig
Yeah, white collar
banker.
stuff.
So say that again.
White collar stuff, right? Like the
Yeah,
corporate stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have those events too sometimes, and they're not the best in my opinion.
Corporates cosplaying crypto, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
what's the Toronto scene like?
You know,
Also go ahead, Samir.
yeah, I just got excited, right? Because I'm into this, and it's very surprising for me that London is such a it's lacking those kind of community type events, and that's such a missed opportunity. And I feel like whoever's listening, is also right now in London, should do something about it, because it's a huge city and there's so much thing you can do. And in that sense, Toronto, for some reason, is really vibrant. But I gotta tell you, Toronto DAO is one of we have 6 organizations in the entire country that are grassroots organizations like our own, but only 2 of them are actually doing something. And lately it's just been us that are trying to gather people. We're trying to organize. We're trying to educate. And that's why the Sui community was such a great partner to us. And we partnered with BitGet in the past and with ICP as well, just to kind of educate, have panels, and just network as well. And it's a great value for them. I think the more protocols, more companies should do something like that. And I think the cost of that is so it's so friendly, and it's so undervalued as far as the benefits. So the ROI is crazy as far as the attachment to the brand and to become a member of the community. I wish more companies do that.
I completely agree. I think really like Solana super teams really nailed the
Yeah.
like that is the one thing that I've seen in London executed very, very well. But like there's no ETH London to my knowledge. It's there was like an NFT London once.
There are actually 2 ETH London, and both of them suck.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we don't talk about ETH London then. Yeah, so no, it's interesting to hear and see. Like, I got the opportunity to go down to Lisbon for an event, and it was just great to see how vibrant the community was there. I've heard the Caymans has quite a growing crypto community as well. but yeah, no, it's cool to see how they different, like they vibe. What's the big event in Toronto? Do you guys have a consensus, or what's the?
For 1 year, yes, we have it. And we also Futurist is also a big conference. It's normally in August, but this year it's in May. So yeah, there we actually partner with Futurist Conference. So shout out to them. Make sure to check that out. Their VIP tickets, I believe, are going up in price soon. So if you want to save some money, now's the good time to get that. But yeah, that's the main one. But there are smaller events that people have throughout the year, which are also not as big, obviously, but they're also fun and enjoyable to go to. I know what you mean by like the white collar one. I've been to one of those too, and I've been to Lisbon for a Breakpoint, so like I know that's like an amazing event, and like everyone knows what they're talking about there. And I went in the white collared one. At the time, I was working for a stablecoin protocol, and I was like, "Okay, do you know a lot about crypto?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, lots." I'm like, "Okay, well, what's your favorite stablecoin?" Bitcoin. And I'm like, "Okay, we're off to a flying start here." So I know the white collar stuff you speak of. They kind of know the buzzwords, but that's where their knowledge on the subject ends.
By the way, I enjoy going in like just like sweatpants and a hoodie to like these super institutional corporate events, and I am like literally the most sought after person there. Like every single person there is like, "Oh shit, this looks like a person who actually knows what crypto is," and everyone wants to talk to me. So I don't really have a lot to talk to them about, but it's a nice, it's like the belle of the ball basically.
I saw a meme where it was like when BlackRock gets into Bitcoin, and it was basically this like old man, like executive dressed up in like, as you said, like sweatpants and a hoodie going to work.
That's funny. I do find it funny that like in Web3, the person in the suit and tie is probably the poorest person in the room, and it's like the guy in the unicorn T-shirt and like gym shorts that's sitting on like $1 billion of Ethereum or something. Um, it's
My
um,
favorite, but I would say my favorite saying someone said to me was like, "There's two types of people, two types of attires in the crypto industry. There's the ones that wear the free crypto T-shirts, and then there's the Hunger Games."
We have those, yeah, during the conferences. I wanted to bring this up back to Toronto and just tell everyone who is on this space right now, definitely visit us in May. Because again, it's going to be the Futurist Conference, which we are community partners of. And of course, it's going to be the Consensus Conference. But most importantly, we will have like 20,000 people in our city coming in here and partying nonstop. There's going to be so many events, after parties, pre-parties, opening nights, like secret events. It's gonna be popping, and I think Toronto is gonna be the place to be in May. So, whoever is in the city, whoever is listening, please come to our city and check it out and have fun and chat with us and meet with us.
And you're probably not going to spend a dime while you're here. You're
Yeah,
like,
this is gonna be so much free shit here.
that's great to hear. That's on my list of places to visit.
"Oh yes, perfect time to do that. Perfect time." And yeah, I've been to these events where like you just tour the city and you don't spend any money because they're like sponsored by these people, sponsored by this person. They're like, "Oh, I'm doing this $50 event for free," and it's awesome. I don't think I spent any money in Lisbon.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's the same. And then just the my hosts in Lisbon were incredible. Like, I was just there basically for the day. I went and did a talk, and then they hung out with me, and we went out for drinks, and then they dropped me off at the airport at 3 in the morning. And the hospitality is incredible.
Yeah, I definitely had to sleep on the plane because I had to leave the Airbnb at 4, and I didn't get home or to the Airbnb until like 2:30.
Yeah.
Have an hour and a half to pack and then get on the Uber.
Oh, speaking of packing, I've got to pack for Eat Denver and Sui Summit. So we're doing plugs, regional plugs, or if you're going to be in Denver tomorrow onwards, you can see David and I's lovely face and get some really incredible e-com merch. You know, the
Ooh.
tech's cool and all, but the merch is going to be ridiculous. And well,
Oof.
yeah, and then with May plugs, hopefully we'll have the Ika-chan waifu pillows ready by then. So just we'll see what happens there.
I do
Yes.
enjoy your graphics and the posts with all the anime related things. It's just it's different. It's sexy. You know what I mean? Like it's beautiful. I like that.
I'm
Thank you. You know, you gotta. I want to make Infra great again. There's no reason you can't have fun doing this, right? It's just that everyone else decided they didn't want to.
We have one of our co-founders at ETH Denver right now. I'm going to harass him to get me some Ika merch.
100%. Yes. Come find me. We're loaded with merch.